Subscribe to Man Told for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. 2 years ago, the doctor looked me in the eye and said, "Wyatt, you'll never have children." It felt like a sentence. I forced myself to accept it. Told myself happiness wasn't only about being a father. At least, I still had Emily. But last night, while digging for a shirt to wear to work, I found a small gift bag, hidden deep in the closet. Inside, a tiny baby blue onesie. So small. It fit in the palm of my hand. My heart froze. I should have been happy. I should have run to Emily, held her close. But instead, I went numb. That doctor's voice came back to me, cold, cutting, like a knife. "You cannot be a father." So then, who was this onesie for? I dropped to the floor, pressed the little shirt against my chest. The fabric was soft, yet ice cold. The room felt smaller. The ticking clock hammered inside my skull. In front of me were two worlds. The dream of fatherhood I thought I lost forever, and the terrifying truth that the dream didn't belong to me. I lifted my eyes to the movie tickets pinned on the board. Once they proved our love. Now, they only made me feel like a stranger. In my own marriage, I should have been happy, but all I felt was that my marriage had already ended. My name is Wyatt Dawson, 34 years old, construction engineer. Truth is, I'm just an ordinary man from Texas. Not rich, not famous. My life is blueprints, dusty job sites, and a 2-bedroom house my wife and I spent years paying off. People call me stable. Maybe they're right. I never wanted much. Just a small family, a warm house at night, a woman waiting for me to come home, and the sound of children running across the living room. For a long time, Emily was that dream. We met in college at a charity event. I still remember her shy smile, offering me a tray of cookies. I didn't take one, but in that moment, I knew I wanted to walk through life with her. 8 years of marriage. I believed I had chosen right. Emily was gentle, smart, and knew how to turn a small house into a home. Every morning, she left a cup of coffee on the table. Every night, I walked our dog Max, while she read quietly on the couch. Those simple things were happiness to me. I had this odd habit. I kept every movie ticket from our dates, pinned them on a wooden board in the living room. I called it our timeline of love. Emily laughed, said I was silly, but sometimes I caught her standing there, staring at the tickets in silence. Work was tough. The heat, the dust, the sound of drills and steel clashing. Some nights, I came home late, dinner already cold on the table. I ate alone. Max lay at my feet, and Emily texted, out with friends. I told myself it was nothing, but in those quiet moments, I felt an emptiness I couldn't explain. That emptiness had a beginning. 3 years into our marriage, Emily got pregnant, but we lost the baby too soon. That night in the hospital, I stood in the hallway, listening to her sobs from inside the room. All I could do was punch the wall until my knuckles bled. After that, Emily smiled less. She still looked at me with gentleness, but behind her eyes, there was a hollow space I could never reach. I tried to fill it. Trips, flowers, saying I love you more often, but the distance only grew. Then, 2 years ago, the doctor's words, "You will never have children." The world collapsed again. I thought I would fall apart right there. But Emily held my hand, whispered, "It's okay. We still have each other." And I believed her. I thought our love was strong enough to cover the emptiness. I even brought Max home from the shelter, joked, "If we can't have kids, at least we have Max." Emily smiled, but in her eyes, there was still a shadow that never left. Time went on. I thought we were fine, but the signs were there. Emily locking her phone when I walked by. Once I called her from work. She hung up, texted back, "Sorry, battery low." I believed her, without a second thought, because I truly believed the woman who once walked with me through the darkest loss of my life would never turn her back on me. I was naive. The night before I found the onesie, I ate alone in the living room, the table empty, only the sound of my knife scraping the plate. On the wall, that wooden board, covered with movie tickets. Memories that once felt warm, now made me feel more alone than ever. I remember thinking, we've come this far, but what if she's already standing on another road, one I can't see? I don't know if it was a premonition, or just exhaustion, but when I found the baby onesie, all my unspoken fears suddenly became real. I once believed love was the strongest rope in my life. But slowly, I realized that same rope was tightening around me, and I couldn't breathe. I remember it clearly. The night I found that baby onesie was only the beginning of losing myself. After the shock, I tried to calm down, told myself maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was just a gift Emily bought for a friend. Maybe even a joke. But the more I tried to believe, the more little details cut into me. One night, Emily texted she'd be late. Meeting with her group. I cooked dinner, left a plate for her, sat waiting. The clock on the wall ticked and ticked. Every minute was a blade digging into my chest. Max lay at my feet, lifted his head, sighed, as if he could feel it too. It was almost midnight when she walked in. A strange perfume lingered on her coat, not the kind she ever wore. I asked softly, "Did you eat? I saved you some." Her answer came too fast, too ready. "I already ate." The group ordered pizza. I nodded, cleared the dishes in silence. But the next morning, while taking out the trash, I saw it. A fancy takeout box, the kind of restaurant we had never been to. I stood there a long time, staring at that box, and one thought pounded in my head. Am I blind? A few days later, she went shopping, left her phone on the table. I had never touched her things, but when it rang, my hand froze. On the screen, work. I didn't answer. Then the call stopped, and a text appeared. "I miss you. When will you tell him?" My whole body went cold. I read it again, and again, like I couldn't trust my own eyes. My head spun. My heart raced. I wanted to throw the phone away, but my hands only placed it back, like a thief putting back something forbidden. Moments later, Emily came home, smiled. "Want to eat out tonight?" I nodded, and sat across from her at dinner. Looking into the eyes, I thought I knew, but all I saw was a stranger. In my head, the words echoed, "When will you tell him?" After that night, I noticed everything. Emily locking the office door, when she never used to. Once, I walked in suddenly. She slammed the laptop shut. "What's wrong?" I asked. She gave me that uneasy smile. "Nothing, just browsing." It was the same smile I once loved, the smile I trusted. But that night, it chilled me, because behind it, I saw it, a secret I was never meant to touch. Then came the night her phone buzzed again. She was asleep beside me. I couldn't resist. The name flashed, work. I opened it. The words stopped my heart. "Don't worry. He suspects nothing. But I'm scared the baby won't look like him." The phone slipped from my hand, hit the carpet. I collapsed to the floor, shaking. Max came over, pressed his head against my hand. His eyes seemed to understand. I held him tight, tears soaking into my shirt. The woman lying peacefully beside me, the woman who once held my hand in the hospital when we lost our child, was now whispering to another man about a baby I could never have. After that, I didn't laugh much anymore. I went to work, came home, walked Max, sat for hours at the drafting table, unable to draw a single straight line. Emily must have noticed, but she never asked. Or maybe she knew I knew, and neither of us had the courage to speak it. At dinner, we barely spoke, only the sound of cutlery, only Max sighing. I sat there, staring at the woman across from me, feeling like a stranger in my own home. One night, she stood behind me, placed her hand on my shoulder, her voice soft. "You're different lately. Is something wrong?" I looked down at the drawings, a mess of lines leading nowhere. "I'm just tired," I whispered. She nodded, turned away, but her eyes told me the truth. She was no longer walking beside me. The next day, I went back to the hospital files. The results were the same. No chance, not even 1%. When I stepped outside, rain poured down. I stood under the roof, watching the water drag leaves away, and I felt my life being dragged with them. Nowhere to hold on. I was an engineer. I could calculate hundreds of numbers, but I couldn't calculate betrayal. From that moment, I knew I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't sit through cold dinners, listen to excuses about dead batteries and late meetings, and keep lying to myself that it was fine. The truth was knocking at my door every night, and I had only two choices: face it or let it kill me in silence. That night, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the wooden board, covered with movie tickets, each one a slice of memory. Once they made me happy. Now, they cut deeper into the wound. I whispered to myself, maybe my marriage is already over. But the real tragedy is that I'm still too afraid to admit it. Since the night I read that message, everything inside me changed. No more doubt. The truth was a ghost, following me in every corner of the house, creeping into every breath. I lived beside Emily, like a sleepwalker, and the home that once felt warm now pressed down on me, so tight I could hardly breathe. Every morning, I still made coffee, placed her cup where it always was. She walked out, smiled, said thank you, just like the past years. But now, that smile was different, distant, half-hearted, like a mask hiding a truth I wasn't allowed to touch. I looked at that smile and felt myself fading out of her life. At work, I lost focus. The drawings that once made me proud were filled with mistakes. A coworker patted my shoulder. "Wyatt, you okay?" I forced a smile, nodded, but my eyes were empty. I wasn't okay. I was falling apart. At night, we shared a bed, but felt like strangers on two distant planets. She turned her back to me. The glow of her phone lit her face, reflected on the cold gray wall. I closed my eyes, pretended to sleep, but I heard every tap of her fingers. Each sound, another needle into my chest. Many nights, I wanted to sit up, grab the phone, shout that I knew everything. But instead, I lay there, letting the pain eat me alive in silence. One evening, we went to a friend's birthday. In the noise, her phone rang. She stepped outside to answer. Her voice lowered. I followed quietly, stood behind the door. I heard her whisper, "Don't call me now. He's here." Just one sentence, and my chest exploded. I stepped back, swallowed the rage, walked into the room, drained my beer. When she came back, I forced a crooked smile, pretending I hadn't heard a thing. Days later, I tried to fix us. Asked her to see a movie, like we used to. In the theater, I held her hand, soft, cold, no longer holding me back. I stared at the screen, but my mind drifted. The man sitting next to you in the dark. Is it still me? Even Max seemed to know. He no longer ran to the door when Emily came home. Instead, he stayed curled beside me. One night, Emily called him. Max looked at her, then turned away. I watched quietly. Bitterness rose inside me. Even a dog understood what I was still denying. One evening after dinner, I asked suddenly, "Is there something you want to tell me?" She froze. Her hands stopped midair. Eyes widened, then quickly shut with a nervous smile. "No, why do you ask that?" I looked straight at her, and for a brief moment, her eyes wavered, like a lake hit by a stone. But she recovered quickly, turned away. "You're overthinking." I pressed my lips, gave a hollow smile. My heart screamed to expose it, but the words stuck in my throat. I lowered my gaze, pretended to keep eating. Deep down, I knew I had just missed my chance to face it. Work kept slipping. One wrong drawing delayed a project. The boss called me in. "Wyatt, what's going on?" "This isn't you." I opened my mouth, then closed it. How could I say? I was living with a secret that choked me every night. One afternoon, I came home early. Emily wasn't back yet. On the table, her purse. Inside, a receipt. A fancy restaurant. Dinner for two. One expensive bottle of wine. The date matched the night. She said she was out with friends. I held the paper. My eyes blurred, not from the money, but because it was a cold blade, confirming what I refused to see. She had another world, and I was never in it. I sat in the living room. Evening light spilled through the window, onto the board of movie tickets. I touched them, felt the rough paper under my fingers. Once, they were proof of our love. Now, they were proof of my own naivety. I had believed love was enough. But love, when only one holds it, means nothing. That night, when Emily came home, I didn't ask. I couldn't take another lie. I just sat there, silent, letting the silence cut me, deeper than any knife. One morning, she left her phone again. I picked it up, hated myself for it. But I couldn't stop. Messages burned into my eyes. "I miss your smile. Are you tired? The baby will look like you." I dropped the phone, walked outside, buried my face in my hands. The tears came, silent, falling like rain soaking into the earth. That night, I lay beside Emily. She slept peacefully, her face as gentle as the day I first loved her. I stared at her and asked myself, was it me? Did I drive her away? Because I couldn't give her a child. The thought haunted me, made me furious, made me helpless. In a moment of weakness, I almost sat up, almost shook her awake, almost screamed, "I know everything." But when my hand touched her shoulder, I let it fall. I whispered instead, "Tomorrow," then turned away. Let the night swallow the words. The next morning, I watched her make coffee, sunlight pouring through the window, a golden glow around her hair. It was beautiful, so beautiful it hurt, and I realized I wasn't ready, not yet. I chose silence, but that silence turned me into a stranger in my own life. The tension in that house was ready to break. All it needed was a spark, and that spark was coming, in a way I never saw coming. That evening, I came home early. In my hand was a bag of groceries. Lasagna, her favorite. I wanted to surprise her, hoped a little warmth might pull us back together. But as I turned into the driveway, I saw it. A strange car parked in front. Cold ran down my spine. I stopped, told myself, it's just a coworker. But when my hand touched the doorknob, my palm was drenched in sweat. The door opened, and what I saw froze me. Emily on the couch, facing a man I had never seen. He turned his head. For a moment, his eyes stiffened. Then he forced a polite smile. Emily jumped up, her face drained of color. "Wyatt, I thought you'd be late." Her voice shook. The man stood, held out his hand. "I'm Nolan, Emily's coworker, just dropping off some files." I stared at his hand. Didn't take it. The grocery bag slipped. A can rolled across the floor, clattering loud in the suffocating silence. Max stepped out, growled low. His fur bristled. Emily rushed in, her voice sharp. "He's just stopping by, don't misunderstand." I looked at her, laughed dry. The sound cracked in my throat. It even scared me. I said nothing, turned, walked into my office. When I came back, I carried a white envelope. I had kept it for days, too afraid to open it. The prenatal DNA test. The one I ordered? When my doubts grew too heavy, I placed it on the table, right in the middle of the room. "Explain this." Emily froze. Nolan swallowed hard. Max kept growling. I nodded at her. She opened it with trembling hands. Moments later, her eyes filled with tears. The result was clear. The child was not mine. Silence dropped heavy. Only the ticking clock, each beat like a hammer. Emily screamed, "No, Wyatt, you have to listen. I wasn't trying to betray you. Just what?" My voice cut, low, sharp as steel. "I just wanted a child." Her cry broke. "You know, the doctor said you can't." I was desperate. I only wanted to feel what it's like to be a mother. I stood there, her words stabbing into me, my heart shattering. But my face stayed calm. I whispered hoarse, "The worst part isn't that you betrayed me. It's that you stole from me the only chance I had to be a father." Emily collapsed, buried her face in her hands, sobbing. Nolan stepped forward. I raised a hand. "Get out." My voice was final. He looked at her, then at me, hesitated, and walked out. Max followed, barked once, as if to send him off. The door shut, leaving just me and Emily. She looked up, eyes red, swollen. "Wyatt, I love you. I never stopped loving you. I was wrong. I don't want to lose you." I stared at her. For a moment, memories came back. Her shy smile under the lights at that fundraiser. Our hands touching in the movie theater. Her grip on me in the hospital. When we lost our first child, I saw it all. And then it vanished. I stepped back. The distance between us felt wider than a lifetime. I muttered, "If I wasn't infertile, would things be different?" She broke down, rushed toward me, tried to grab my hand, but I pulled away, my hand cold as ice. "I don't know what I want more. To hit him, to hold you, or to disappear from this world." My voice cracked. "But one thing I know, we can never go back." Silence filled the room again, only her sobs, and my heavy breath. I turned, climbed the stairs. Max followed, his nails clicking on the wood, each sound sharp. I closed the bedroom door, left Emily collapsed outside. The ceiling blurred above me. I felt like a husband, a stranger, and a reluctant judge. To my own marriage, I thought I had hit bottom. But I was wrong. The real fall was only beginning. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the blinds, faint streaks across the ceiling. But inside me, there was no light left. I lay still, listening to the clock on the wall, each tick pounding into my skull. I hadn't slept all night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the white envelope and Emily's terrified stare. I opened them again. Max lay at the foot of the bed, his brown eyes watching me, silent, steady. He didn't ask for answers, but in those eyes, I saw loyalty, unconditional. I walked downstairs. Emily sat at the table, still in her old nightgown, a cold cup of coffee in front of her, her face pale, eyes swollen. When I entered, she looked up. Her lips trembled. "Wyatt, please, listen to me once." I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Say it. I was wrong. I know, but you have to understand my desperation. Every day I saw the emptiness in this house. The silence drove me mad. I longed to be a mother, and I was weak. I never meant to betray you, but you did." My voice cut through, low, cold. "Not just me. You betrayed the trust we built. Emily, I can forgive weakness, but lies, I can't." She broke down, buried her face in her hands. I watched, but I felt nothing. I had cried the night before, until I was dry. Now there was only emptiness. The days that followed, our house turned into a silent battlefield. We lived together like strangers, meals without words, only the clash of cutlery scraping into my chest. I buried myself in work, stayed late to avoid coming home. Emily was gone often, no explanations. One evening, I came home to see her suitcase at the door. She sat waiting, eyes red. "I'll move out for a while," she said. "Maybe the distance will let you breathe." I stayed quiet, then nodded. I had no strength left to hold her back. As she pulled the suitcase out the door, Max barked once, then ran back, pressing into my legs. I held him, whispered, "We'll be okay." The house was empty. For the first time in years, I lived alone. No perfume in the hallway, no footsteps, no sweet lies. But this emptiness wasn't peace. It was the haunting truth that my marriage was over. One afternoon, my phone buzzed. A message from Emily. "We need to talk. Meet me at the old cafe." I hesitated. That cafe was where it all began. But I went. I sat at the familiar table, the one we once laughed at for hours. Emily walked in, thinner, tired. "Wyatt," she began, voice shaking. "I know I destroyed everything. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I never stopped loving you. The baby, I'll take responsibility. I don't expect you to, but please, don't hate me." I looked at her for a long time. My chest ached, but my voice stayed calm. "I don't hate you, Emily. Hate would only take more of me. But I regret that we didn't choose honesty from the start." Her tears fell. I didn't wipe them, didn't reach out. I just sat there, drank the last drop of bitter coffee. "I'll sign the papers," I said. "We need to free each other." Emily lowered her head, her tears soaking her hands. The day of court came. We sat across from each other, the room cold, pages shuffling, the judge's voice steady. "From this day forward, you are no longer bound by law." The words cut like the final knife, severing the last thread between us. I held the pen. My hand shook, but I signed. When I looked up, our eyes met one last time. No anger, only sorrow and exhaustion. Then she turned away, and I knew that was the last time we'd call each other husband and wife. That night, I came back to a house now, mine alone. I sat on the sofa, Max curled into my lap, his eyes on me, as if to say, "I'm still here." I stroked his fur, looked up at the wooden board on the wall, still covered with movie tickets. Once proof of our love, now proof of my foolish faith. I pulled them down, one by one, my hands trembling, but firm. When the last one fell, the wall was bare. Strangely, I felt lighter, as if I had lifted a weight that pressed on my chest for years. I sat back, exhaled, whispered to Max, "It's just you and me now, and that's enough." That night, for the first time in months, I slept. No ticking clock, like a sentence. No glow of a secret phone, only silence. But even in sleep, deep down I knew the dream wasn't over. I had found a moment of peace, but trust, I wasn't sure I'd ever find again. After the court, my life didn't collapse in one blow. It crumbled slowly, like an old house with a leaking roof. Every morning, I still made coffee, put on a shirt and tie, drove to work, came back to an empty house, a routine still moving. but meaningless. Sometimes, passing the old bedroom, I stopped at the half-open door. Inside, only emptiness. Yet in my head, I heard Emily's laugh, her soft morning call. My hand touched the doorknob. My chest tightened. Then I let go. I knew if I stepped inside, there would be nothing, only hollow memories. I began writing a journal. Pages that never betrayed me. Pages that didn't hide the truth. I wrote my pain, the betrayal, but also the beauty we once had. And I realized love doesn't disappear just because it ends. It stays, like a scar that never fades. Ugly maybe, but a reminder that I once loved, once lived, once walked through days worth remembering. One night, I sat on the porch. Max curled beside me, the sky full of stars. I remembered my father's words. Loss isn't here to break you. It's here to teach you how to stand again. When he said it, I was young. I thought it was just comfort. But now I knew. Loss is the test. It strips away what you cling to, forces you to find yourself again. Some nights, I still collapsed at the desk, asking myself, was it my fault? If I weren't infertile, would it be different? The questions pierced like needles. But then I looked up, and Max was still there, waiting. His eyes saying, I'm here. We're still here. And I knew not everything was lost. One Sunday morning, I took Max to the park. Children running, families holding hands. My chest ached, but the pain no longer tore me apart. It only reminded me I had lost a dream. And though that dream was gone forever, I still had the right to write the rest of my story in another way. I realized Emily's betrayal doesn't define me. The shadow of infertility doesn't erase my worth. I am a man with scars, and scars don't make me weak. They prove I stood through the storm. I write these words for myself, but also for anyone like me, men who've lost everything. If you're reading or hearing my voice in a sleepless night, know this: your wound does not define you. You still have the right to write the rest of your life. Tonight, as I close my journal, I realize I no longer ask, why me? Instead I ask, what will I do with the life I have left? That is the only question that matters. Emily is no longer in my life, but I am grateful she once was. That love, even ending in betrayal, taught me the value of honesty, the fragility of trust, and most of all, the strength to rise from ashes. I turned off the light, looked at the night sky. In the dark, I saw a small light, not from a star, but from my own heart, a heart broken, but still beating. Maybe we never know the last time we hold someone until it's gone. And now, I only have one lesson left: to learn how to hold myself.